Hi and welcome to the second in our new digital series, Ask a Woman, where we get to meet some of the most interesting women around, deep dive into their life experiences and find out what makes them tick. Now, at the beginning of 2018, it's fair to say our guest today was known to her very many customers and a few baking aficionados, but perhaps not a great deal beyond that. And then came the call to make the royal wedding cake for Harry and Meghan, and suddenly Claire Ptak's name was up in lights, and so was the name of her bakery, the Violet Bakery in Hackney in East London. I'm delighted to welcome you, Claire, to Ask a Woman. And you even brought cake as well, which is even better. So we'll talk about the cake in a bit if we can resist it. What a year. I mean, just take me through it. Have you even sort of come down off that sort of cloud of adrenaline?
No, I don't want to. I stay right up there. No, it's been amazing. It's been quite something.
Yeah, transformative for you and for the business, I would have thought.
Definitely for the business. For me, it's been really gratifying and exciting, and it gives you like an extra surge of energy back into your work. You know, sometimes you need that. It's been 8 years that we've been in the bakery, 14 years the business altogether. So it was nice.
So nice.
Yeah.
I think that's the understatement of the year. It was nice. And I was reading that just from your Instagram account, you went up from 60,000 followers to 200,000 followers literally overnight when it got announced.
It was amazing. I kept doing the refresh. I was like, are you seeing this? This is so exciting.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to reach that many people. Yeah, it's very exciting.
So there's so much to talk about, but let's talk about the things we really want to know about first, and that is how this all came about that you got to make the royal wedding cake, because you had known Meghan Markle, as she then was, back in your Californian days, both California girls.
We are. We had an interaction when my first cookbook came out. My first Violet Bakery cookbook. It's actually my fourth cookbook. But when that book came out, she wrote about it on her then blog, The Tig, which was a really cool lifestyle blog in New York. And she loved the book, and she loved that we had some recipes that were refined sugar-free and gluten-free. And so she put a recipe for our oat agave cookies on the site, and they interviewed me. And I remember distinctly that the interview was really thoughtful. It was a really great interview. And, you know, at that point when you're doing a press launch for a book, you know, you get asked the same questions over and over and over again. And it was very thoughtful, and I thought, oh, this is cool. And
but it was an interview over email, though. You didn't.
I didn't. No, we didn't meet face to face.
So what was different about the interview then?
I just felt that they'd done their homework, and the questions.
She'd done the homework. Obviously.
Well, I'd like to think that. I don't know. I'm sure she has a team, but she seemed very involved in it. Just that you know, it was a cool website. So that had happened about 3 years prior, and then in last January, I got this email to come talk to them.
So tell me about the moment that email drops in your inbox.
It's a funny thing, because when you get an email like that, amongst all your other emails, you sort of read it again and think, is that really, you know, is this a junk mail? Obviously it was very exciting. It was really exciting. So we sort of like dropped everything and replied right away and tried to figure out how we could do what we needed to do. Is
it the moment where you sort of grip the desk and you think, if this is for real, then this is quite a thing?
I don't know. I'm a bit of a kind of, I don't want to have too many expectations. I like to be a realist. I like to think it's amazing to be asked, let's kill this, you know, tasting and make sure we do our best and bring the best, and then see what happens.
So tell me, so you then had to go to Kensington Palace.
We did, yeah.
Or
I did, alone.
You went alone?
You did, yeah.
So you're sort of crunching up the gravel to Kensington Palace with a box of different cakes.
Like trying to look really good, yeah.
So just describe the meeting. They were both there, presumably, weren't they?
So, no, it was just with Meghan and her assistant wedding planner, wonderful woman who we worked really closely with. And so I actually brought 6 cakes, because I just wanted to give them a lot of options. And so brought them, we sat down, we had a really great chat, talked about being from California, living in London, what that's like, and then just really that she told me what she wanted for for her wedding. And so I said, well, these are what we can do. Let me know what you think. And she wanted to take them home and try them with Harry. So they did that, and then they let us know.
Okay, so she took them away. She wasn't sort of having a little try while she was...
No, I thought that was cool, though. That was like, nice.
Then just go and take it away. So eventually, of course, and famously, they opted for the lemon and elderflower.
Yeah.
Having worked at the royal wedding, I got slightly obsessed with all of these details. But you presented a few other options. So what did they pass up a chance of having?
Well, I wanted to give them a range of what we do at Violet. So one of the things that I thought about when I was doing the tasting was just to really present them with my favorite things, and hopefully they'll align. So the lemon elderflower cake was very, it was created just for them, but it was very kind of quintessentially Violet because it was seasonal. I knew that the wedding was going to be May 19th, and that it was the moment that elderflower just explodes in London. It fills, in England, but it's always a bit earlier in London, because it's warmer. And you walk through the streets and you just smell elderflower everywhere. You know how it's just such a nice thing. So I thought that would be so lovely, and it's so English. And then lemon is fresh and, kind of a nice, it's not just too plain vanilla. It's nice. So that was one. And then I brought actually a kind of similar simple vanilla with jam cake that we do. And we do seasonal jams. So this was a rhubarb jam at the time. Then we did did I say the fruit cake, the traditional fruit cake, which
this is
I kind of really didn't want that, but I thought, well, we do it, so I'll bring it in case that's something that they want to do. And then we brought a chocolate cake too with salted caramel, just because, in case they wanted to go really the other way around. And the chocolate salted caramel is our most popular cake. So.
What sort of woman is she, do you think, from the impression? I mean, you've had these email exchanges and you've met her. I mean, it's quite an intimate thing very intimate thing to be involved with somebody's wedding, isn't it? What do you make of her?
My only experience with her was just, was on a work level, and she was wonderful, and we had a great rapport, and they chose me, so obviously I think she's amazing. It was really, I was really lucky to be chosen.
So she wasn't too hard a taskmistress, if there is such a...
I had a great experience the whole wedding, the whole time. There was so much support from, we worked really closely with the Buckingham Palace kitchens. They invited us to bake them there because our facility is very open, and they, with the way that the basically everybody gets really excited about royal weddings, they knew that it wouldn't be viable to do it in our space.
What impact did it make on the bakery? Because when you see it, and I was fortunate to go and do a bit of filming outside as well, and it's in a great spot, isn't it? But it's really low key. It's a very welcoming little shop that you've got a great clientele locally, obviously, but it's not some great big establishment.
No, I mean, basically it was starting from a market stall. I never wanted to take investment as my first time going into my own business. I really was nervous about partnerships that could possibly end in disagreement, and taking investment and not being able to pay it back. So I had this idea that I really wanted to do it myself. So with the market stall, I could afford to do that. And then I saved everything I made each week at the stall, and was eventually able to afford the rent on this building. And it was not a very glamorous building, so I could afford it. And that was how I really launched my business. And so it's still the same building. We are actually now, thanks to having a renewed popularity, we're actually going to do some renovations to kind of spruce it up a little bit. It needs its time. Yeah. It needs some love.
We'll talk a bit about how you got to that business, because it's really interesting, the path that you carved, right from being a little girl, really, to that. Mm. But before we get to that, I must just ask you about those last few days in the run-up to the wedding.
Yeah.
When the pressure is really on. I mean, I've spoken to the guys at McVitie's who'd been involved with previous wedding cakes, and the secrecy and the planning and just the scale of the challenge of producing a royal wedding cake was something most people would never even sort of get their heads around until you heard about it close up.
That's right. It is a huge scale. It's going to be, it's a global scale. the press that you're going to get from it. And then obviously building the cakes, you know, you need enough for 700 people. And you do need one cake that's going to be on display and beautiful, and then other cakes that you can serve to 700 people, you know, in a matter of minutes.
How did you deal with the stress of it? Because there are a few nightmares I was reading that
It's
dreamt about the cakes.
Yeah. You have nightmares. You have not very much sleep, but I don't know. I felt like because it was so well organized that nothing could go wrong. By the time the day came, you know, we were ready. So then there were no nerves. But it was more the leading up to, once it was announced 2 months before, and there's this like 2-month period where you're getting this incredible attention for something that you haven't done yet. I'm like, I haven't actually done it yet, so let's just calm down and see what happens. So there was a lot of pressure to deliver. So.
And you're right in the eye of the storm with all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you cope with that?
I don't know. I just keep working, keep going. I think for me, I try to have a balance, you know, a real balance in my life and work. I am a workaholic, it's just the way it is. But I have a great family and great friends, and that really helps too. You know, people call my mom, like, Mom, you know.
I've got enough eggs.
Yeah, exactly.
What was their reaction when they saw it, the royal couple?
Well, I wasn't there, but
You didn't get a moment where you went, ta-da, here's my cake.
No, we were very much gone by then. But my sense was that it went down well. I heard some nice reports from people, so I think they really liked it. You know, and they sent me a really lovely thank you that said as much.
But to get to the end of the royal wedding day. And it was an amazing day, wasn't it?
It was an amazing day.
Beautiful day. And to know that your cake was an integral part of it.
To be a part of that you know, be a part of history. It was truly extraordinary, and it was such an amazing wedding to watch back. To be a part of it was pretty exceptional. Yeah.
And I suppose the cake actually was quite, you know, it was quite emblematic for the change that we were seeing, or we were expecting to see with this new royal couple. How do you think that's sort of playing out all these months after May?
Well, it was really wonderful that they chose. I mean, I must say that to choose an East London bakery, you know, I'm a California baker. Obviously, we share a lot of the same principles and ethos about sustainability and organic and seasonality and all things that, you know, I've always been actually a really big fan of Prince Charles and his gardens and his duchy farm and what they do there. And I'd actually visited the farm years and years ago through a Chez Panisse connection, because he's been friends with Alice Waters, who I used to work with. And so, you know, I knew that was something that they thought about. And so it was really cool that they sought that out and chose me. You know, I think they both had a big part to play in the choosing of the you know, the cake. And so I think, and for, you know, my friends in East London too, people were like really proud and happy. So it's really community building. It was a really positive thing. I mean, it's like it makes people smile.
Yeah, it does make you smile, wasn't it? Well, it was a beautiful day, wasn't it? Whatever your viewpoint is of it. So, of course, we should talk about whether you've been asked to do a christening cake.
Yeah, no, I haven't been asked yet. So
what would you do?
I think they're going to save. Yeah. I think they save some of the cake from.
Well, you can do that with a fruit cake. You can't save it.
You can freeze our cakes.
Can you?
Yeah. So this cake could just pop it in the freezer and then
freeze
defrost.
A bit of what they had.
Yeah, I think, you know.
What would you do though if they said, right, okay, what's your best shot for a christening cake? What would you make for them?
Oh my goodness. I don't know.
It's going to be
when is the baby due?
Well, I don't know. It's sort of April times.
April.
Yeah.
It's going to be forced rhubarb.
Forced rhubarb.
Yes. So Yorkshire rhubarb.
Yeah.
Yeah, that beautiful champagne-y, you know, bright pink rhubarb. That's what I would do.
Okay. So if this gets to the palace, if this gets to Kensington Palace, forced rhubarb.
Forced rhubarb cake.
She's offering already. She's got it all in her head. So let's talk a bit about how you arrived at even to be in the position where you get an approach from a royal couple to make a cake. I mean, this started when you were a little girl making cakes with your mum and your grandmother after
Yes.
school back in California, right?
That's right. Yeah, I did. I was like really kind of a weird kid. I wanted to bake every day, all the time. I would do it as a kind of way to, I think, I didn't know it at the time, but I think it was actually a little bit of a kind of calming process thing. I really liked to do that before I did my homework, which maybe wasn't so good. But yeah, and I really enjoyed it. So once my mom taught me, I just like went for it.
You were off, and
Yeah.
and really early. And you do find this sometimes with women who've got to this, you know, the sort of heights of their career, that actually things were clear quite early, and they really were for
true.
you, weren't they?
It's
I mean,
true.
it's sort of age
I tried
12,
to deny it,
yeah,
but it's true.
But you were sort of bluffing your way into kitchens from the age of 12,
It's
weren't
so funny
you?
that you know that.
So tell me about it.
So when I was 12, I was really eager to start working and cooking. And so I put a little ad in our local newspaper, and I said, teenager, available for catering work. And I mean, 12 is not really considered teenager, but I was like, it's two-digit, like it could be teenager. And so I got a call from this lovely woman, French woman, who lived about a half an hour away, and she said, I have a job and I could use your help. And I said, great. I said, okay, Mom, can you drop me off? And so my mom drove me to the job, and I showed up, and the look on her face, I'll never forget. And I was like ready, and I was like, okay, here I am, put me to work. And she was like, you're very young. How is this gonna work? And I just said, I can do it. And so she had no choice really, because I was there. It was the day of the event. But it was great. We had a great
What were you
time.
doing? You were...
I mean, it was like I remember it was like a salmon, kind of like a poached salmon with cucumbers. I mean, it was like the 80s.
Yeah.
So, but
Take me right back.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember that she was just like shocked, but then she just was actually quite pleased by the end of the day. I think she was okay. I didn't get a call back, but
But it gave you your first flavour of doing this.
It
and
did.
Then you sort of kept it going, and then you were then working with one of the big name restaurants in...
Yeah, so I worked in bakeries throughout high school and college as a weekend kind of Saturday thing. And then I actually studied film in university because I just thought this is not a real job for some reason. And then I was working for a lawyer part-time and working for this fashion sort of retail place, and because I was really into clothes, and it was like a way to get clothes cheaper. And one of the women working there said, why don't you work at Chez Panisse? You're baking cakes all the time. You're bringing them in. All of our events, you're making cakes. And I was like, you're right. I don't know why I'm not doing that. I'm in denial that that's really what I need to do. And my friend Trina, and she always...
Chez Panisse was one of the big names, wasn't it?
Yeah, and at that point, they'd just gotten the Best Restaurant in the U.S. award from former Gourmet magazine, which was such a great food magazine. And so basically, I just took her advice. I went there, asked for an internship. They gave me one. And after the internship, I said, this is what I want to do. I have to work here. And they said, well, we don't have any openings, but we'll keep you in mind. And it took a year to get a job, because at that time, nobody ever left. They stayed, 6, 7, 20 years there. So
it was one of those great,
really difficult to get in.
sort of, you just have to be persistent.
Yeah.
And just stand your ground and wait until the opportunity.
I just knew. I walked into that restaurant, into the kitchen, and I looked around, and it was like watching a ballet. I mean, everybody was so fluid, and it was quiet, and it was clean, and it was beautiful, and it wasn't sterile. It was, there was beautiful flowers and bowls of fruit and vegetables, and people seemed really content and really serious and focused. And it was like, I'd never seen a kitchen like that. And I thought, oh yeah, I could do this. This is for me.
And you just suddenly realised this is what I'm
It's
meant
an
to be
epiphany. Yeah, no, and then I didn't look back, and I just tried really hard to get a job, but just there. I didn't want to work anywhere else. I wanted to work there.
And then you trained under a brilliant pastry chef.
Yes, Alan Tengren, yeah. He was amazing.
Yeah.
He'd been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
And he taught me so much. And Mary Knollis was also another chef there. She was great too. But Alan really taught me how to taste, and that was something that I needed to develop because I had I had really the ambition to do it, and I had a pretty good skill level at that point just from being self-taught, but I didn't understand all the components to, you know, refining your palate, and he helped me do that, which is really key to being.
And you see that playing out with everything that you work with today. And then love brings you to London.
Yes, love brings me to London.
And it's sort of throw everything in the air again and right,
I
how
wasn't
do I
ready
get
to
going?
leave Shea yet because
Yeah.
I'd been there 3 years, and usually you would want to stay longer to learn more. But I also saw that it was a great thing to do to move to London, and I love London, so I'm.
And then started
forever.
the stall at Broadway Market.
That's right. Yeah, within 3 months of moving here, I started it. Yeah, I just right away. I did a few stages in Morrow and St. John, and I worked for a little while at the Anchor and Hope, which was a great restaurant. But at the time, chefs kind of would flow in and out of doing pastry. There wasn't a pastry chef in most of the restaurants where I wanted to work. Pastry chefs worked in Michelin-starred restaurants, and I didn't really want to do that. So I focused on these smaller restaurants that were more ingredient driven. And then I thought, I've got to just do my own thing.
And out comes the stall at Broadway Market.
Exactly.
And then clientele, including Nigella, Jamie Oliver.
Yeah, we had some good clientele.
Extraordinary. And what were you offering, do you think, that just wasn't? I mean, we've had this enormous explosion around baking, haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, Bake Off, of course, is the big thing that's kicked it off here. But
yeah.
How do you find your way into that when everybody's baking cakes? What was your?
I think, and this is something that I would tell people that want to start their own business, I think I just really I was really focused on doing it the way that I like to do it. I wasn't trying to jump on a bandwagon or trying to fit into something. I wanted to bring my, you know, California style of baking to England, and I saw that there was a gap in the market, and that really meant seasonality, meant really fine-tuning and balancing flavor in cakes, because a lot of times with cakes people just think sweet, and you know, they don't think about it in the same way that you think of food. So when you're cooking, you're making a tomato sauce, you taste it as you're going, and you're like, oh, it needs a bit of salt, or it needs a bit of, you know, more acidity somehow, or, you know, richness. And when you're baking, you can do the same thing. And I didn't think I didn't see that happening enough. So that's what I focused on. And
so it's
people liked it.
So for young men and women interested in getting into this, it's just, I suppose your lesson for them is just find the bit that you really drives you.
Yeah.
And keep a focus on it.
Definitely, and don't be swayed when, you know, you'll have moments of success and you'll have moments where people aren't really noticing what you're doing, but stick to it and don't waver, because it will come around.
What was the worst mistake you ever made?
Oh my gosh, worst mistake.
Or where something went really...
I mean, I've had a cake, I mean, I shouldn't admit this, but I've had a cake collapse. You know, I've had that happen for a wedding, and it was...
A wedding cake's collapse?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've had that happen. I swore to never do another wedding cake, and here I am. Yeah, it was terrible. It was awful. It was
actually at the wedding?
So upsetting before the wedding. Like, the setup, I left, drove away, and then I got this call. Yeah, it just fell over. And so, yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than that. I mean, the poor bride. I'm so sorry to this day. I'm so sorry. You know, yeah.
But you dust off the icing sugar and get back into it.
Yeah, exactly. Keep going.
What do you make of the debate around sugar, and how does that sit alongside your whole world? I mean, we're, you know, this drive against obesity, which obviously has to happen.
Yeah.
The conversation around sugar. We're told in every trendy sort of article about, you know, drop the sugar from your diet, drop the sugar from the diet. And yes, you're using natural sugar for a lot of the creations that you make, but you're still... It's still
a lot of white sugar,
a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sugar.
Yeah. No, it's tricky. We tend to... I mean, the cakes that I like are on the less sweeter side, but they're still cake and they're sweet. It's moderation. It really is moderation. I mean, I go in and out of it, and I have for years gone in and out of eating sugar myself. And I create recipes when I'm on that for me, because I'm like, I need something. So our oat and agave cookie, which actually was what Meghan featured on the TIG, is a cookie that I developed when I was doing a cleanse of no refined sugar. And it's delicious, and it's made with a 100% chocolate that is super bitter, and sometimes people taste it and they're like, this is disgusting. But some people really love it. It's one of our best sellers. And so, it's about a balance. It's about, you've got to take care of your body. It's super important. But I also think that there's so much joy in eating cake. And, I went to a 3-year-old birthday party on Sunday, and I walked in and I saw there was like meringues and little Rice Krispie treats and cakes. And I was like, here we go.
Here we go.
Like, let's just go. But it was all homemade. And I think that sometimes that's a bit better than the sweets from,
At least you know what's gone into it.
Yeah.
Now, there's quite a few well-known cake makers, of course, because it's been huge here in the UK for the last years. But there's one particular sort of celebrity cake baker, Ed Balls, who used to be Shadow Chancellor.
Yeah.
So member of the government a few years back.
Yeah.
And he makes quite a lot of cake.
He's a cake maker?
He's a cake maker.
I didn't know that about Ed Balls.
And let's have a look. He just posted on Twitter about a cake. He makes cakes in his spare time, and he made a cake for a mate's 50th. I'm not sure whether we can get a picture of it up. We can, look at this. So I would like cake, Claire Ptak, royal cake maker.
Oh, yeah.
What you would make of this created by Ed Balls.
That is really funny and fun.
What's your assessment of that then? What?
There's a lot of booze and pizza going on.
It's a little camper van, apparently.
A camper van.
For his mate's 50th.
That's adorable.
What tips would you give him, do you think? It's pretty, there's a lot of work's gone into
I think he's done a great job. I mean, okay, so we don't do novelty cakes, like that's not our thing. But, it's so fun. I mean, this is going to bring so many people a smile. And, I mean, I don't know what it's going to taste like, but...
Made you smile.
Yeah, it's not about the flavor, I'm sure.
It's not about the flavour. It might taste delicious, but there's a lot of work. So one message to Ed Balls from Claire Ptak, royal cake maker.
I just hope it tastes good on the inside. I hope he spent as much time on the inside as he spent on the outside.
And what advice for his next cake?
I mean, just, maybe like, I don't know. It's pretty good. I really can't even improve on that.
Well, I'm sure he'll be delighted. We'll let him know. So, who would you like to make a cake for? You've been inundated since the royal wedding with offers. Who would you like to make a cake for?
I mean, this is a question that's so hard because on the day of the royal wedding, I had the Queen and Oprah and Serena Williams, like all these amazing women that I've looked up to for years eating my cake. I really feel like, how do I surpass that? Like, it's just the coolest thing. So I don't know. I need a little break from that.
From big name cake making.
Yeah, I mean, that was just really, it was really pretty amazing to me. So.
And one of the things that we're asking our guests on Ask a Woman, we asked Miriam Gonzalez-Durantes, is if you're having a dinner party, which must be the invitation to sort of die for at your place, which 3 women, current names or historical figures would you invite for dinner? Well,
this is tough. One of the first names that pops to mind is Frida Kahlo.
Interesting. Miriam Gonzalez-Durantes said exactly the same name. Oh my God.
That
is very weird. Okay, so she is a big tick from us so far.
I was, I studied her in university a lot, and I've been to her house in the Casa Azul in Mexico City, and I was so moved by her story that I would die to meet her.
Wow. So Frida, and this amazing creative spirit, which is, I suppose, totally what you'd like to be able to do.
Yeah, it's really exciting that she's now being recognized as the artist that she was. So yeah.
So Frida Kahlo? Who else?
Frida Kahlo. This is so tough. I mean, I hope, did she also say Michelle Obama?
No.
No. Okay, good.
So Frida Kahlo, Michelle Obama, who's having a bit of a moment with her.
I mean,
with her book.
She's having a moment. She will be totally. That's like, she'll be too busy. But yeah, I mean, she's just so amazing. I got the chance to sort of cook a meal. I went to the inauguration of her husband.
Wow.
And yeah, I got to go, and that was because of Chez Panisse. So we were cooking a meal in Washington, D.C. What happens during the inauguration is that there are all these meals that happen throughout this, you must know, and you hope that they might come, and they don't go to every one of them. So we did a meal at the Phillips Collection, which is a beautiful museum in D.C. And actually, Martha Stewart was there, which was like so cool to me.
Wow.
Like, really
so Martha Stewart's already in the room and you're waiting to see if they come in.
Yeah, exactly. And so no, they didn't come to our dinner, but we were there, and then we went to the inauguration. It was the night before, so we walked through those millions of people.
It was freezing as well.
It was
freezing. Absolutely bone cold, wasn't it?
So cold.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And I was like, oh, I see. All the DC women are wearing fur coats. I get it. Like, you need to be, I mean, it's just the coldest thing. So, yeah. And I got really nervous in the crowd, actually. It was intense being, I mean, you couldn't see anything but people.
I remember it. It was extraordinary, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then we finally got onto the lawn and like got inside, and it was like, wow, this is so amazing. So, yeah, that was.
So you were inside.
Yeah, we had some ticket to one.
And you saw them
gate,
just on
the
that
purple
biggest
gate.
day of their lives at that moment.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, incredible. Yeah.
So Michelle Obama, Frida Kahlo, it's quite a lineup already. So who's who's number 3?
Do you know who number 3 is? I'd love to see my grandmother again.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Alongside those amazing women. That's quite a thing for you, obviously.
Sorry.
No, don't apologise. I think it's a lovely thing to say.
Just because she'd be proud.
She'd be really proud. Yeah. Because she taught you quite a lot of it. I wasn't expecting tears. She'd be really proud. What was the best thing she taught you? Because she was there with your mum, wasn't she, helping you?
Yeah, so she's actually my paternal grandmother. And she didn't live in California, but she would come visit and we would go visit. And she was fabulous, so fun. And she had 5 boys, and she cooked for all of them and baked for all of them. And her kitchen was just so, I mean, it was the center of everything. And she was very particular, and people were like, the boys were like not allowed in the kitchen. But she would let me come and just learn and make a mess. And, she just loved it. And I think that really gave me a great foundation because I could make mistakes and learn from my mistakes, so, yeah.
So how lovely you'd see her sitting there with you.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And what would you serve them for pudding?
Oh, well, it would depend, obviously, on the season. But I love to make ice cream, and I don't get to make it in the bakery because we don't have the space, the facility to do, it takes a lot of space and for the freezing and everything. So I would love to make a really delicious ice cream sundae kind of thing.
Ice cream sundae with Grandma, Michelle Obama and Frida Kahlo.
Yeah, sounds good,
and
right?
Claire Ptak. That sounds a pretty good dinner gathering. It's been really great to talk to you, Claire.
So nice to talk to you too.
Really
Thank you for
great.
having
And I'm rather looking forward now to getting
Dig
knife
in.
and getting tucked in. Your delicious cakes. Great to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.